Well, obviously, there's a lot of information of the flight plans and the incidents of what's happened, as well as what they discover through the recovery efforts. It's going to take some time, I know, for NTSB and the investigation team to go through that process, and so there'll be probably some slow release of information as they discover it and work through that. And I know that's frustrating for all of us to actually wait and not have the answers at our fingertips. Obviously, we're reaching out from our office, and both of the senators were in D.C. at the press conference last night, working through that as well. As I mentioned, I spoke last night with the chairwoman of the National Transportation Safety Board, and so she's got a team there at DCA and working together that information. So we'll keep in constant contact as we try to go through that.
Congressman, I assume you've been on this flight several times in the last year. Does it give you pause in terms of the amount of traffic? I know there's a lot of talk this morning about the amount of air traffic around Reagan National. Does this give you pause about that situation and how that's managed right now?
No, this particular flight's been in process for over a year, in use for over a year now. Obviously, it's important for us as a community to have connections, have a direct flight, particularly one of the most commonly routes that's traveled to in Washington, D.C. Obviously, with the Reagan Airport situated there on the river right across from Washington, D.C., there are some twists and turns that pilots and planes have to make as they're coming in and out of that airport. So it does require skill of the pilot to work through that. I don't have any hesitation. I know the major runway there at Washington Reagan is I think it's the busiest in the country for any one runway. The flight last night was on the secondary runway through that process, which is a little bit shorter, which is more appropriate for a plane the size of the CRJ that was flying in there. So it's there's always going to be that process as whether they're coming from the south, as it was last night, or on the approach from the north. But I wouldn't hesitate to continue to fly in and out of Washington Reagan Airport, and including on this particular flight and with this particular plane.
Could somebody expect more information on how many people on the flight were from Wichita, how many were figure skaters?
And that's one of the frustrating things, I think, as we try to gather all this information. Obviously, there's a lot of concern about how families are going to grieve and find out, in some cases, find out the information. I know a lot of us in the community, myself and others, have been reached out by lots of friends around finding out whether we were on the plane or whether we knew of people that were on the plane through that process. I do know there's a time where we need to make sure that the families get the opportunity to be notified, and the next of kin being allowed to know and being able to go through that process before we make that information public. So even though I'd like to be able to know that and know some of those answers to some of those questions, like how many people were from Wichita, how many people were from the Washington, D.C. area, it just unfortunately takes a little bit of time to gather all of that and make sure that the process is followed.